Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the City of Des Moines Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for October 4th, 2012. Just to get out of the way, the rules and procedures for this evening's meeting. Planning and Zoning Commission is generally an advisory body to the City Council. The City Council will hold a public hearing and make the final decision on all matters before the Commission, other than site plans. The Commission's decision to approve or deny a site plan is a final decision by the City, unless the applicant appeals to City Council. So you'll need to contact the City Clerk or Community Development Department staff for details on those council hearings. This evening, the applicant will be given 10 minutes to present their request. Proponents and then opponents are allowed to speak, with each speaker allowed a maximum of 5 minutes, and the applicant will present after staff has already presented. The applicant will then be given 5 minutes for rebuttal. The hearing will then be closed, and after a motion, the Commission will discuss and vote on the issue. All comments are to be germane to the issue under consideration, and speakers are to maintain a courteous manner. Items listed on the consent portion of the agenda will not be individually discussed. There are two, and there's a potential for a third one coming on, and will be considered for approval in accordance with the recommendation in the staff report unless an individual present or a member of the Commission requests the item be removed from the consent agenda and separately considered under the public hearing agenda. So everybody understands. That means if anybody objects, we'll pull it back off, okay? The City of Des Moines is pleased to provide accommodations to individuals or groups with disabilities and encourages participation in city government. To better serve you, when possible, please notify us at least 3 business days in advance at area code 515-283-4209 should special accommodations be required. Assistive listening devices are available for meetings in the council chambers. Planning and Zoning Commission meetings are also broadcast. Oh, thank you. On meeting, I didn't know what I'd done wrong. On Mediacom Cable Channel 7 for customers with that service. The broadcast is also streamed live in real time on Des Moines' website at www.dmgov.org. Click the Watch Live link for those meetings. Do we have a quorum? Quorum being present. One thing I do want to bring up, we had a former member, Joe Alio, who was a member of this commission for a number of years, and Joe passed this last week. And so I'd like you to each remember him, those of you who do. Do we have a motion to approve minutes? Okay. Got it? All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Consent agenda. There are 2 items on here right now. The first one is City Council initiated request for vacation of the following segments of right-of-way to allow for relocation of a spur line for the Norfolk Southern Railroad as part of the Southeast Connector Project authorization. And you'll see, actually it's up on the board here, isn't it? You'll see the descriptors for that. And then the second one is City Council initiated request for vacation of the following segments of right-of-way to exchange with Polk County for portions of land used for a Southwest 6th Street as part of the MLK Jr. South Loop project authorization. That's Wagner Street from the north-south alley to 5th Avenue and 132 feet segment of the north-south alley between 5th Avenue and 6th Avenue north of Vine Street. Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to either one of those items? In opposition? Seeing none, do we have anything else to go on consent? Item 4. Item 4 is a request from Rich Eichner for review and approval of a site plan, shops at Douglas under design guidelines for extension of off-street parking into adjoining residential district for property located at 3631 59th Street to allow a 9,350-foot square commercial center along Douglas Avenue with off-street parking which extends into the adjoining R3 district to the south. Is there anyone here in opposition to that item tonight? In opposition? Seeing none?
Sir, I'm sorry. I'm here in opposition to number 3. We already...
Number 3, no, I'm talking about 3. We're just moving 4 on to consent. All those in favor of moving item number 4 on to consent, please signify by raising.
I just wanted to make sure that 4 will reflect an amended staff recommendation that just clarifies, adds language to condition number 4 that clarifies that condition would go away if the zoning requirement is lifted.
Thank you. All those in favor of moving item number 4 on to consent, please signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Acclamation, Kathy. It passes.
Move to consent.
Move the consent. Okay, Greg moved the consent. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Okay, it
And
passes.
I'm abstaining on item number 4.
Okay. Mike's,
3, I'm sorry. 3?
no, on
No,
4.
4.
You're on 4. Mike's abstaining on 4. Okay. Bringing up item number 3, which is a request from 3201 Forest LLC, represented by Mike Nelson, to rezone property located at 3201, 3211, and 3221 Forest Avenue and 1414 32nd Street. Jason, you present on this? Thank you, sir.
Chair, members of the commission, Jason Van Essen with the city's planning staff, passing around response cards, letter from the neighborhood association, general support, and then a letter from Drake University office support as well. The subject property is on the north side of Forest Avenue, in between 32nd and 33rd Street, outlined here in orange. This is a summary of the responses that are being passed around, regards with opposition and support. This is a rezoning, a land use plan amendment, and then also a rezoning. We are not looking at a site plan tonight. That will come down the road and be reviewed by the commission as part of the NPC design guidelines. So we have the south facade, north facade facing into the parking lot, east elevation, west elevation. We do have some renderings that they've submitted. The applicant's got a PowerPoint as well, so I'll flip through these pretty quick. Just some photographs of the site. You can see it's got some existing commercial buildings. There's an existing multifamily building on the site as well. This is looking west, corner 32nd, Forest. This property is kind of surrounded by the subject site, but it's not a part of the application. This is just looking at to the north of that building, back towards the west. This is 33rd Street, so we're now on the west side of the site, looking back towards the east. And this is the additional building or the residential building that's on the site that would be removed as part of this development. I think what I'll do is, we reviewed this. We have neighborhood plans. We take those into account consideration as well. 2011, the Drake Neighborhood Action Plan was adopted, so that's a very recent plan. There was language in there that supported rezonings along Forest Avenue to NPC style development on a case-by-case basis, including for multifamily uses. There's language about a pedestrian-friendly campus town district with enough density to support commercial uses or businesses in the area. With that and just the fact that Forest Avenue, the nature of it, the existing commercial uses in the area, we felt that this was an appropriate development for the site. We are recommending approval. We do have some conditions of approval that I will go through. The applicant has indicated to staff that they concur with the staff recommendation. For condition number 1 is just to prohibit the following uses: taverns, game rooms, communication antennas, pawnbrokers, gas stations, off-premise advertising, liquor stores. There's also a condition about making sure that the number of units kind of has a cap. That'll still be reviewed at the site plan stage. Compliance with our design guidelines for NPC, and then the multifamily. And then there's some minor design things such as shingles and entrances and that sort of stuff. I won't read those in detail. I think the uses are probably more of a concern to residents or neighbors that might be here tonight. So happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Thank you. Is the applicant present? Please come forward and give us your name and address. Thank you, Jason.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, my name is Larry James Jr., 3101 Ingersoll Avenue, Des Moines. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, 3201 Forest LLC. With me tonight is architect Joe Crummel, who's willing to answer any specific questions about the architecture if we have questions tonight on that. But again, as Jason stated, this is just a conceptual plan, and so we're going to pretty much stick to the zoning. With me also tonight is Mike Nelson, one of the principals of this of the developer. And as many of you know, Mr. Nelson is the owner of Nelson Development. Been involved in very many high-quality multifamily reuse and new construction projects in the city, to which I'm going to just briefly touch on E300 Grand, where Zombie Burger is. There's an interior shot of the building. AP Lofts is historic reuse inside of that. In addition to that, the Fleming building is currently under construction, historic reuse, and soon the Des Moines building will be under construction, a project that the city awarded Nelson Development and Fouch Brothers from the competitive bidding process. Finally, Liberty Building with the Hyatt Place has been another project. So this applicant has a good track record of running and operating, developing high-quality multifamily projects in the city. And before the applicant chose to present this, one of the things that was put under consideration was the Drake Neighborhood Plan, as Jason mentioned. And just touch on that briefly. One of the things they're calling for specifically is a new affordable multifamily developments along Forest Avenue, which this plan would provide. One of the things that the plan also calls out is really to create denser multifamily uses on the thoroughfares, University, and Forest in particular. One of the other things is specifically the plan calls for to develop the area along Forest between 30th and 33rd as a pedestrian-friendly campus town district. The Drake Neighborhood Association, as they do support it, they support it in their plan to encourage additional housing in the area and to rezone the area to NPC on a case-by-case basis. And finally, one of the things that the Neighborhood Association supports is, again, really to encourage folks to develop along these major corridors in multifamily development projects. And taking all this into consideration, looking at the neighborhood plan, what we have before you is a proposal tonight simply to rezone the site to NPC. The conceptual plan is showing 48 apartments. The developer has been trying to look at the site for potential mixed use, but frankly just cannot get the numbers to work, cannot get interested parties. So looking at this site for strictly residential use. The site plan conceptually at this point, we're showing 68 parking spaces. I believe NPC only requires 44, but the developer recognizes that there would be additional parking needed and is showing 68 spaces. One other thing to note that the developer is keenly aware that of the tree preservation ordinance. Is going to make every effort to save as many trees as we can. We don't have specifics as to that today, but obviously this will meet the tree preservation ordinance. And with that, I'll open it up for questions.
Any questions?
Mr. Chair, I appreciate your comments on the tree preservation ordinance, but recognizing that that's a very weak ordinance in this city compared to other cities our size. And this neighborhood is recognized also for its mature trees. Is consideration being made in the placement of your building to save as many of these trees? I'm sure they're probably oak trees, and I don't know the health of them, if that has been determined. Of course, if they're diseased, that's a different story. But so giving that, those items, are you considering trying to preserve them rather than just mitigating?
Sure. At this point, with the conceptual plan, I can't answer that specifically. I know at the site plan stage, we come back to you, we'll have very specific answers to those questions. There are several trees I think the developer would like to save because frankly, it's going to add to the look of the building and really adds to that, to the neighborhood. And so our hope is to try to save those. I think when we get to site plan, I think we'll have a much more specific answer. One thing that this plan does show, while not mature trees, along Forest, there is a slight setback from where the buildings stand now. The current commercial buildings sit up to the street. The city's staff is requesting 12 feet from curb, so we'll have the downtown style streetscape with trees planted along there, planting beds, and an additional 8-foot sidewalk beyond the planting bed to allow for pedestrian traffic.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure there was consideration for those mature trees.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
The only other thing I will add is if the commission does seek to pass this tonight, the developer is very willing and looking forward to working with Drake University and the Drake Neighborhood Association as well as surrounding neighbors to create a plan that is beneficial to everyone and meets both the developer and the neighborhood's needs. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Larry. Going to open the public hearing. Oh, I'm sorry, Vicki.
It might come after. It might come up from the opposition.
No, go ahead. You can go ahead and ask.
I was contacted by a couple of residents, and they had a concern about parking. Is there any adjacent property available to expand that parking any? Because with 48 units, even if you just had 2 cars per unit,
Sure.
you know, that's not
I think
adequate.
I'll have, maybe if we have specific questions, I believe if we were to do strict C1 zoning, we would require 72 spaces. NPC would get us down to 44 by code. We're looking at 68. I think additionally, that's just off-site. That just counts off-site. So NPC also allows on-street, above and beyond that, so we don't have a specific count on that, but it's well beyond 72 if you include those. I think it's an urban site that we're trying to fit as many spaces on there as possible and still provide a buffer to the surrounding neighbors. Try to balance that, recognizing that they're providing much more parking that's even required.
And with the existing parking in the neighborhood, I think the comment was they just don't think this will be enough. So you've already explored every other option, and there's no way to expand it.
Right. I think the 68, I think, is from strictly, even again under a C1, we're just about meeting that. So from the traffic and transportation guidelines, we're meeting very close. And I understand what you're saying. I think that you have to also appreciate that we don't want to have a huge sea of parking in a residential neighborhood that's going to cut back and even farther north. I think that would be also, I think, something the neighbors would not like to see. So.
Well, and I understand you're exceeding the guideline. I just wanted to be clear that there already is a congestion problem evidently in the neighborhood, and I think they'd rather have a parking lot than more on-street parking.
And I think some of the congestion stems from commercial use. I think that when you have a commercial user, it's going to be a lot heavier use. Here, we don't have that mixed use or commercial aspect, so I think it's going to be very adequate.
Thank you.
Ted?
Larry, is there any kind of expectation about who the tenants will be in this? And if there are students, is there any kind of information on students and cars?
No, it's actually, at this point, the developer's looking through the Iowa Finance Authority Housing Tax Credit Program. The exact mix of market rate to IFA funds has not been established yet, but it would not be under the IFA guidelines. The IFA units would not be able to be leased to undergrad. So I don't know the answer to that.
Any other questions? Thanks again, Larry.
Thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of the application? In favor of the application, please come forward, sir. Give us your name and address.
Derek Gord, 2422 Drake Park. I am the current president of the Drake Neighborhood Association. We met with Larry James and the developers on our meeting on September 12th, and we had a lively discussion at that time. We also met again on the 25th with, or I did with area residents who were discussing this as well. Again, another lively discussion. As it pertains to the site plan, the Drake Neighborhood Association at this time is in favor of the rezoning. And when we looked at this property back in 2010, when we started the planning process, which was approved in 2011, this is just a vast, as you saw from the picture, it's just a vast expanse of sort of nothingness. And our dream was to have a mixed-use building where you would have commercial at the bottom and then residential above. It appears, based upon everything that's going on right now, that probably isn't going to happen at this time. NPC zoning, though, is exactly the kind of zoning that we were looking for. But I think, as everybody has kind of noted here, the devil is in the details in this. Because we aren't at a site plan stage right now, we're reserving final approval of everything until we see that final site plan and we work through with that. However, given the reputation of Mike Nelson and everybody associated with this project, we feel like issues like parking that was been brought up, also issues of the density, the increased density, and other issues that were brought to our attention in both of those meetings. We do have some reservations about what the final site plan will look like. And I think probably some of the people in opposition will be discussing that. But as we just speak to just the rezoning to NPC, this does follow exactly what the neighborhood was looking for when we came up with our plan. And it was a project similar to this. So.
Any questions? Thank you. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor of the application? In favor of the application? Seeing none, is there anyone here to speak in opposition to the application? Please come forward. There's more than one. We want you to line up here on the wall so we can kind of orderly move you through. Give us your name and address, sir.
Good evening. My name is Scott Hall. I'm with Whitfield Netty Law Firm. My address is 213 North Ankeny Boulevard, Suite 100, Ankeny, Iowa 50023. I'm here tonight representing Paramount Properties, LLC. Paramount Properties is the owner of that building that is completely landlocked in between all of those, basically the development that we're here about tonight. Its address is 1410 32nd Street. They've owned that property since approximately 2008. They've endeavored to keep it full, clean, and safe. Obviously, it's a fourplex. They rent it out to tenants. They oppose this development for a number of reasons. Number one, obviously, it'll make it more difficult to rent the existing units they have there in their space. They question, does the area really need more multi-unit complexes or apartment buildings? I went to Drake Law School between 2006 and 2008, and the neighborhood has improved vastly since I left school there. But I think you would all recognize just driving down Forest and driving up 31st, there's a lot of spaces available now. There's a lot more big buildings, apartment complexes, both down Forest to the east and up 31st. So those are just initial couple concerns, but the real, I think, concern for my client is safety of the tenants. Right now, turning onto Forest Avenue, when you're making a left-hand turn coming down 32nd Street South, I mean, that is a completely blind intersection right there for you. The existing building comes all the way out to the sidewalk, and you can't see around it. Now, it's just a one-story, dilapidated building. We're talking about putting a three-story building basically right there where it was, right on top of the sidewalk. And we have a lot of concerns with the congestion that is in the area of the traffic. There's a lot of traffic from across the street with the new parking lot over there, with the Jethro's, with the Taco Bell. We just have a lot of concern for our safety of our residents coming in and out of that intersection, especially if we increase it with 48 more units with, I don't know, anywhere from 80 to 120, 150 people. I don't know what size that each unit is going to be. So safety is our biggest concern. We also have concern about our quiet use and enjoyment of our property. Talking about putting a three-story apartment building directly to the south of our two-story older building built in 1923. The question is, how much louder is it going to be for our tenants? How much brighter with lights from the parking lot is it going to be for our tenants? What kind of fence is going to be there to buffer that and keep them safe from a lot of traffic coming through there? Are we even going to get any light from the sun, especially in the wintertime, from that taller building being created directly to the south? That's definitely a concern for my clients and their tenants. I guess we had some questions about whether there'd be commercial property underneath, but I guess we've kind of heard that tonight that there won't be. So that kind of raises the question to me, though, why is an NPC zoning appropriate if everybody comes here knowing that it's going to be purely residential? Why are we even asking for the conversion to NPC? Is that just because the restrictions and regulations are a little looser with NPC? I mean, obviously, you guys have more scrutiny under the NPC, and you can look at things over, but why is NPC appropriate? That's a question that we are asking. In conclusion, I would just say our biggest concern is the setback. It is our quiet use and enjoyment of our own property. We note that under the MPC, it's generally supposed to be for 1- and 2-story commercial buildings. This is a 3-story. And also that the setbacks should be compatible with predominant front yard setbacks in the area already. If you look down Forest Avenue, this is the only building on Forest within 3 or 4 blocks that's set right on the street. Everything else is set back. So at the very least, we think it should be set back further from the street so traffic has better view around that corner. I think that's all I have.
Any questions? Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Please come forward, give us your name and address.
My name is Mark Snyder. I own the property directly to the east of this apartment building. Already, I can tell Mr. Nelson that the people from this man's fourplex is actually parking behind their building because there is no parking on 32nd Street for them to park in. There is usually 6 cars associated with that apartment right now that he owns. I have seen, not every morning, but on some mornings when people are coming up 32nd Street to go south, when people are wanting to go to the east, people are getting mad or upset or whatever, come flying through my parking lot to get to my driveway to make a right-hand turn in front of the people that are sitting there waiting to make the left-hand turn off of 32nd Street. So there's already an issue with that, with just the light traffic that we have on 32nd Street just from the residents, without all these. I know they're all not going to leave at the same time, but there's going to be a lot more traffic on 32nd Street trying to get out, and I just see an issue with people flying through my parking lot and having problems.
Anything else?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Any questions?
Yes.
Ted?
I'm sorry, sir, I didn't get your name.
Mark Snyder.
Thanks, Mark. You did say that. Would you please point to where your property is here? Just, you said east across 32nd, so you're in the white.
Can you go back to the document again?
I own this property right here.
Okay, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you mentioned something about the fourplex and
The
where...
fourplex, already the fourplex, the one where the horseshoe is,
Uh-huh.
of where the fourplex is now, those people are actually parking behind the old trophy shop
Okay.
currently.
So there's no parking at the fourplex for the people that live there?
No.
What's that area
There's
behind it?
there's a driveway that they might be able to get one car in, and then it's street parking for the fourplex.
Same thing. This looks like
Mm-hmm.
parking.
For the fourplex, there's a driveway to the north of it. A driveway, a single car driveway.
Okay.
Okay?
Thanks.
Anything else?
That's
Ed?
it.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Please come forward and give us your name and address.
My name is Diane Greenwood. I happen to live at the north end, or at Clark, 32nd and Clark, 1440 32nd Street. And I am actually out of the zone that got notified about all of this development. I only found out, and I'm in the Drake Neighborhood Association, but I only found out because all the neighbors were telling me about it. So I'm here to talk about the traffic and the congestion. Because at the corner of 32nd and Clark, there's probably one major, which is 1 block north. There's already like one major accident every year where cars end up in yards because they speed down 32nd and they speed down Clark and they don't stop at the stop sign. And we very seldom go from our house south to get on Forest because it's hard to get on Forest there. And the picture was probably taken during Drake relays. And when there are cars parked on Forest on the north side, it's even harder to pull onto Forest. You have to creep out about one lane just to be able to see if there's anybody coming. And when you talk about it being pedestrian friendly, we walk in the neighborhood a lot. We try to walk over through Drake. We try to cross Forest at a crosswalk, and we stand at the one in front of the Drake Stadium, and nobody will stop for you. So you have to wait for the traffic. And I can't imagine, and then when we come back, we try to cross there at 32nd and Forest. And it's hard. We don't walk during high traffic time, but you kind of have to run in between the light and the people coming. So there's no crosswalks, there's no light. We don't ride our bicycles in the neighborhood because that's even more unsafe. And I have a feeling we have houses on our street that have some of them have up to 6 cars because they're rentals and they have Drake students. So I already can hardly ever park in front of my house, and I live at the north end of the block. And if we add more cars, because there's not going to be enough parking spots, and they're either going to have to park on Forest. It's going to be like the Drake Drake relays all the time in our neighborhood. And I am concerned about the safety and trying to get out. So I guess that's what I have to say.
Any questions? Thank you, Diane. Please come forward, give us your name and address.
My name's Debbie Parker, and I live at 1446 32nd. So I'm at the opposite end of where this is being proposed to. And I just want to state also that the parking in this area is it's unbelievable. We have a mixture of not only residential people, of families, okay, but we also have from the Drake College students. And so when you have a mixture of this, the parking on this street, like Diane was saying, there are some families on this street where the students live in their bigger houses that they may have 4 to 5 vehicles. So they're parking on the street. Some of us on this street, like for me where I live, I have an alley that is behind my house, just a single driveway, and the people with regular families, there's 1 to 2 cars per family, and then with the other students with their cars, it's absolutely a fight to get a parking spot out on the street. And if we're proposing that we're going to have 48 units in this apartment complex, and they're only allowing 1.5 parking slots at this complex, it just doesn't make sense. These people, there is going to be nowhere for them to park. And I understand we want to try to make it friendly to take the bus and to do that kind of thing, but most people, for this, what they're proposing for these 1 and 2 bedroom apartments, for the income, for the kind of people that are going to come here, of who they're allowing to live in these apartments, no one really wants to not have a car. We'd all like to just take the bus, but everyone has their own personal life. They're going to want a vehicle. There is no place for these people to park, and there's no place across the street. 32nd and 33rd, there is no parking, and I just don't. But for the zoning of it, that they only have to supply so many parking spots, it's just going to be disastrous. There's just not enough there. I am for some kind of a building or a smaller apartment building where they can put the ample parking to the occupants that are going to be there. But to assume that someone's going to ride the bike or take the bus, and this is not it's not really a commercial area. You know, we have Mark's place around the corner, his service place for his auto service, okay? We have a restaurant across the street, Kentucky Fried Chicken and a Taco Bell. There's no shopping centers around. If you go on down, you got Jethro's. The business from Jethro's, they fill their parking lot up. When theirs is full, even on a weekday, on a weeknight, traffic is lined all the way up down Forest. There's no parking. It's even a nightmare just to get across of Forest. And on down, there's McDonald's, no parking. There's a bookstore that's there down on the corner. There's just no other place for people to park. And if the people they only supply so many parking spots, if these people have a visitor that comes over, are they going to limit the visitor from parking in their parking area that they provide, or is the visitor going to have to go park elsewhere on the street or try to find another parking spot? Because at least everybody has at least one friend. Now, they're not all going to be there together at the same time, but occasionally, so where are the friends going to park? I just want to really emphasize this parking situation there and the mixture of trying to bring residential and students into the same area, and now to bring in another working class of people, possibly with families or not. It's just going to be too much congestion, I think. Something needs to be there, but the limit on the congestion that it's going to bring it on this little corner is, I think, overwhelming. That's it.
Any questions? Jack?
I have a question. I'm looking at a Google Earth photo that shows no parked cars on 33rd, 32nd Forest, or in the parking lot at Drake. So it occurs to me that this is a seasonal problem. 3 semesters or 9 months a year, and not so much in the summer.
It'd be really curious to know when that picture was taken. If you drive down 32nd Street at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock in the morning, you may not see very many cars on that street. Starting about 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, it starts to fill up. By 6 o'clock, it's full. There is no other parking.
Summertime, every month of the year.
It's all the time. Because
Most of the parking on the street is going to be people that live on the street. There is no commercial property on that street that brings in any business, or that brings in any car. It's all the people that live on that street.
Well, I don't know when the picture was taken, but it's obviously fairly recent, and it's obviously, I think, when school's out, because the parking lots over there have no cars in them.
Probably, maybe.
Summer months, it occurs to me. I'm not picking a fight. I've tried to go park over at Drake. Occasionally have to go to the law school for this or that. It's hard to find parking spots. I get it, and I understand your concern.
You know, when school isn't in, over there, the parking lots over there on the other side, across the street, those parking lots are empty. And I mean, if anybody wanted to park over there, Jethro's probably takes up some of those parking when they're really busy, because Jethro's does very well. I mean, they are strong business, and they do good. But even with their parking lot that they have, they struggle because they line Forest. Forest is just lined up with them. But even when school is not in, there's people that own these houses or still continue to live in them. And like we said, we have a mixture of students, some students, but then we have some families.
I have a question to apply to all of you. Is there a solution aside from not building anything with people living in it? Small.
There was some way to, if Kentucky Fried Chicken wasn't there across the street, then we could just level that off and then be a nice parking lot there, okay?
Actually, the parking is just an issue almost all the time. We hardly ever can park in front of our own house because the people across the street,
Ma'am,
door down,
ma'am.
have 4 cars.
So it's, the parking is just a really big issue. Something needs to be in this area because, yeah, it is run down. It's an open area, but it just seems like it's going to bring a lot of congestion right there in that area. It's just.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Tim?
I just wanted to know, ma'am,
Ma'am, before you leave.
are you aware that the neighborhood association is for the conceptual plan? That they think that this is a pretty good idea?
I found out through the neighborhood. I don't get any notices. I don't get any information. I've lived in the neighborhood for 7 years. and-
Were you aware that the Drake University supports this conceptual plan?
I have heard through the neighborhood of people.
All right.
Yeah.
That's all my questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
Please give us your name and address.
Jerome Jamowski, 1430 32nd Street.
It's Jerome?
Yes.
Okay.
I just want to state that I happen to agree with these people. I'm worried about parking and congestion. And when you have, say, half of the parking lot leaving on 32nd Street at any given time, I can't see 32 cars and myself navigating down that street. And that's what I have to say.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else to speak in opposition? Seeing none, Larry, do you need some time?
I guess I have a couple things. First off, to Mr. Hall, the attorney representing Paramount Properties, the layout that we currently have on site, if you look at the map that's up on the screen, is exactly what we're proposing. The footprint of the commercial building would go a little bit farther west. Actually, the footprint of the new building is going to go a little bit farther west. Other than that, there's vacant ground to the west of Paramount Properties building and to the north, which is gravel parking lot and dirt parking lot. It's been used for years by the previous tenants of the commercial building. So I don't understand the concern that when he bought the property, the layout that we're proposing is very similar to what exists there now. In regards to safety, traffic safety of the tenants and for, in general, traffic safety on the corner of 32nd and Forest, I agree the building that's currently there is too close to the street. That's why we are proposing to set back the building even further. There'll be a much greater clearance for cars that are looking west to be able to see the traffic, and that would be corrected under this conceptual plan. We are seeking NPC again, in part because that's what's called for in the Drake Neighborhood Plan, which was worked on for 2 years by residents and businesses in Drake University. And furthermore, it would allow the building to be built up to the sidewalk, which again goes in what the neighborhood has wanted, which is a more pedestrian-friendly design. Rather than having parking in front, the parking is tucked in back. Speaking of parking again, the site is Zone C1 currently. Part of the site is Zone C1 currently. So the parking requirements are very similar to what the applicant is proposing. Again, under C1, we need 72 spaces here. We're offering 68. We understand the concerns. The developer is building above and beyond more spaces than is required under NPC, specifically because he has heard the neighborhood concerns. I think we could pave over a lot more of the neighborhood. I think that we have enough surface parking in that area that has been established. I think that one of the reasons the neighborhood association wants NPC is because it does provide for a more pedestrian-friendly environment. It is more sustainable. This site would allow folks to jump on the bus up on Clark. Now, would everyone jump on the bus? No. But again, it's another opportunity for us to do an infill site in the city, really do something that is going to be sustainable development that the city has really supported. And I'm very excited, frankly, about the opportunity to create high quality density by design, not cut up old houses. We have too many of those in the Drake neighborhood. The Drake Neighborhood Association has worked to de-densify the cut up old houses, which you have the issue with in some of the surrounding neighborhood. And this is to provide adequate housing for residents in the neighborhood that is going to be of very high quality. And again, the applicant's reputation speaks for itself. I think we will end up with a very high quality project that everyone will be proud of. So with that, if there's any other questions.
Ted?
This may be for Larry / staff. Has the traffic and transportation weighed in on this relative to probably the Drake neighborhood plan? I suspect they have, but for this specific project?
They would have more input at the time of the site plan review than the zoning at this point.
Go ahead.
Would the developer be amenable to a meeting with these neighbors on 32nd Street and maybe with some of the traffic and transportation people to discuss what the impact of the traffic might be?
Absolutely. I mean, I think one of the processes, again, the developer is more than willing to meet with the surrounding neighbors and the neighbor association and Drake University to address all the concerns, specifically traffic, that would be part of the site plan approval process. My guess is that trip generation from commercial properties that are on Forest is much greater than you'd see here, just based upon my anecdotal evidence from other similar sized apartment buildings in the Drake area. You don't have everyone leaving at one time. You don't have everyone coming home at one time. So, but absolutely, I would encourage, and I know the developer would agree to meet with staff and traffic to address any concerns in those neighbors.
And you could get some contact information from these folks
I
tonight,
have most of them already, and I by all means, I'd be happy to have a meeting.
Jack? CJ?
I have a question you can probably answer. I'm real familiar with the E300 Grand building, and it's, I believe, really energy efficient, maybe even 98 to 100%. I understand that this is just proposed, but I also know that if you get your word in ahead of time, it can be included. So are we going to see energy efficient here in green infrastructure? And also, my second question is, I know this builder has a great reputation, but when I see affordable multifamily, there is certainly a lesser degree of quality when you say affordable rather than an E300 building.
Well, I think the city has made great strides in providing quality, affordable housing. Look at a number of the projects downtown are financed with exactly the same financing this project is proposing. I think the NPC guidelines dictate a certain level of quality and materials. And again, the application process itself for IFA funds dictates a certain level of energy efficiency that is above and beyond what is normally required by the building code. So I think a lot of those concerns would be addressed, yes.
Any other questions? Larry, I have a few.
Yes, sir.
It was raised earlier that NPC figures in two-story. Why is this a three-story project?
I don't know for a fact that NPC is, right, it's 45 feet is where I understand it. It's not a two-story limitation.
Okay, and there's not going to be any commercial, is that right?
Correct.
So then the next question, that also begs the question, why is it NPC?
I think, the NPC proposal was presented to primarily address the setback issue. Could we go ask for a variance? Yes, but whether or not that would be granted is up to question. I think the primary reason is to allow for a pedestrian-friendly site plan, frankly.
Okay, Mike, did you have some questions?
Yeah, just a couple of comments. I just want to point out for the board's consideration, and Jason, maybe you could put the site plan, the concept drawing that was shown just briefly, but first of all, on the aerial photo that's on here right now with the mouse, Jason, could you?
Oh, sorry.
That's right.
We thought we were doing.
Could you go back to the computer, Kathy?
Wipe it out.
No, he wants to. Sorry, go back to the document camera, please.
Sorry.
We'll get it eventually.
So Jason, on there, there's several lines on there. The orange with the hatching is the actual property, but there's a couple of blue lines that kind of bisect through the site. If you could just clarify the zoning districts that where the residential R160 portion is on this property. If I recall, it's that far northern lot,
Yes,
correct?
That is correct. This area, this part of the site is zone C1. This up here is the R1, and then this over here into the west and to the south is zone R3.
So in the C1 zoning district on the portion of this property, that allows up to R4, which is our high-density residential by right currently under the existing zoning. Then you have R3 for the east half, and really the only portion of this that is low-density residential right now is that single lot to the north, which is where they are proposing parking. So under the current zoning, they could do a multifamily project on this property and have parking extend onto that residential lot and probably have a plan that's very similar to density-wise what's being proposed. The real question is compliance with the neighborhood plan, which wanted buildings out towards the street and more in character with an NPC district. The reason they did not rezone to NPC at the time, and that was on the advice of staff, was because there are uses that are allowed in the NPC zoning district that had we legislatively rezoned the property would have been allowed. A lot of those uses that are recommended to be prohibited by staff as part of this rezoning. So there was an attempt to have some control over when NPC zoning was applied so that we could limit some of those uses. The final comment I just wanted to point out is once again, you're not looking at the site plan tonight, but I think there are probably a couple things that maybe the applicant may be able to look at. I know Mr. James pointed out that the proposed building would be further west than the existing building that's shown in this aerial photo. I think that could be looked at initially. And I don't know whether the neighborhood plan was so specific about where the buildings were placed, but if it's proven that 32nd Street there is a visibility issue, the idea of even locating the building at the 33rd Street corner may help with visibility too. And I'm not saying it would have to be, but it's something that could be looked at. And then finally, on this aerial photo, if you could zoom out just a little bit, Kathy. Once again, I don't know what date this photo was taken or time of day, but if parking in the interim, I think you've indicated that you're providing, you're meeting the code and that. But there is, if you'll see in that parking lot that Drake owns to the south and east of the site, the far northern portion of that is big. There's a lot of cars on the southern portion. I don't know what time this was or day this was taken, but I don't know if it'd be possible to talk, with Drake if there are shared parking opportunities or not on that portion. It's not a requirement, but it might be something you could at least look at or pursue when you come back for site plan review. Just some things to take into consideration. Thank you.
Anything else, Larry?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. I'm going to close the public hearing. Do I have a motion? Greg? Move staff. Any discussion? Glenn?
Mine is just comments that I think need to be said, at least in my estimation. This design, I'm just hoping that they can find something a little different. This seems to be the design du jour, and it might be going with some things that Drake is building, but I'm not real thrilled with flat roof residentials to start with. And if the neighborhood association is wanting something with more character or something that matches the character of the neighborhood, then this is already a Frank Lloyd Wright-ish design. And if you could step into it a little further, it would have an awful lot more interest as far as what you see. And people aren't going to look at it and say, oh, that was built in 2010 or 11 or 12. They won't be looking at that as something that is just one more building of a type that was popular then. So I think something like that, and there is a tremendous amount of prairie-style homes in that area. That would be something. I would really like to see a pitch of some kind to this roof in our area in the winter. Sometimes we don't have much of a winter. And sometimes we have enough of a winter that a flat roof is just not a useful roof. So that's just my opinion of the design. It's not that it's a bad design, it's just that I think it would stick out, not stand out, just stick out in the area, okay?
Thank you.
That's my own thought.
Christine?
I'd just like to add, I wouldn't oppose your motion, but I just think it's important because even the Drake Neighborhood Association did say in their letter that they too had concerns about parking. There was one comment in there, and I don't know if it was directly related to the concerns about parking as far as maybe certain elements that might further harm the neighborhood. I don't know what that pertained to specifically, but I think because that was in the Neighborhood Association's letter, and because the people that spoke today in opposition of this had significant concerns about traffic safety, I just want to assure that if this moves forward, Mr. James did say that the developer would, be willing to meet with traffic and transportation, but I'd really like that fleshed out, and would really encourage that if that's a part that we could add to this, that that issue is really addressed, because there's concern at a number of levels, not only from the association, but also from the residents and the business owners as well. If that was the case, then I would feel comfortable approving the motion.
Just simply leave it as it is.
Okay.
They will look at it. Traffic and transportation will be consulted. That'll be part of our review of the site plan.
Dan?
That's what I understood. I was going to ask Jason, but since you already answered it, Mike, I guess.
Dan?
Any other discussion? Tim?
I just have one comment, and it actually segues from your comment. The attorney, Mr. Hoss, mentioned YMPC, and I'm gathering that the neighborhood pedestrian commercial was the commercial, so your setback is closer to the street. Now, and I'm just making sure that the president of the Drake Neighborhood Association understands that. That's what you want, and there's no commercial building. You want that, and you guys understand what that means. The apartment complex is going to be, is that 11 feet away from the curb, or? I think it's 12. I don't think we have, I think we're past that, but I just, when you get to the planning part of it, that's just something you might want to keep in mind as far as talking to the developer about. That's it, thanks.
Thank you, Tim. Any other questions, discussion? Seeing none, I'm going to call it to a vote. Everybody understand Greg's motion? And I think we need to break this down, don't we? I want to go ahead and take whether or not it's determined to be in conformance with 2020 Community Character Plan, and Jason, your indication is it is?
Not with the
Not,
existing.
I'm sorry, not with the existing, okay. All right, So let's take that up first. I understand your motion to be that it is not.
It's not.
Okay. All those in favor, all those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Acclamation, Kathy. Anybody, is there somebody abstaining?
Mike abstained.
Mike's abstaining, okay. That's what I figured. I couldn't see it, Mike. Okay, then I think we can just go ahead and take up B and C together. We're going to amend the community character plan, and then we're going to rezone. Okay? All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Greg did such a great job on that. Okay. It passes. Yeah, Mike's abstaining. Moving on to item number 5 is a request from Hubble Properties 2 LC, represented by Steve Niebuhr. Did I get that right? Third time's a charm, Steve. Anyway, to rezone property located at 40, I can't do this, 4312, 4282, 4250, and 4216 East 50th Street. Jason, are you presenting on this one? Thank you, sir.
Chairman, Commission, Jason Van Essen, City's planning staff. Before you use the aerial, showing the subject property on East 50th Street in the northeast part of town. You can see it's a combination of 4 platted lots in an area that's right now, what development has occurred is kind of an industrial park. You can see some of the light industrial uses to the north. It's currently zoned M1.
And Jason, that was platted as an industrial park prior to the residential to the east being approved. It was.
Yes, that's correct. Or to the west.
Yeah, or I'm sorry, on the west.
Okay. Got me confused with the directions there.
Sorry there.
That's okay, he's just directionally challenged. I can identify with that.
Response cards are going around. This is the response map. We have some support. I think that's from actually from other properties the applicant owns. We had a couple in opposition from some of the adjoining residences. Just to get you familiar with the site before we kind of talk more about details, this is the kind of the north end of 50th.
Shut off the auto zoom on the camera.
Shut off the auto zoom, yeah. So we don't get nauseous, okay.
I will. Do you want me to?
That's fine.
I think we're good, Jason.
Okay, so this is looking south, down 50th as you're heading south town towards the site, just to get you kind of familiar with the setting, south and west into the site. This is the end of 50th looking back towards the north with the proposed subject property on this side. Looking down the south perimeter towards the west, and back towards the residential development to the west. This is looking back, this is Aurora looking back towards the west into the site. Kind of matches up with this photograph. You can see that area is right in here. And we'll be talking about Aurora in the presentation. So this is where this is what it looks like now as far as there's fencing here, but this is actually right away. And then looking back towards the east on that same spot. I'm just going to show you the site sketch that was submitted with the zoning application. So we have, on the site sketch here, we have 2 sites. Phase development, I'm not 100% sure which would be built first. I believe, I'm guessing that the southern one based on some previous information. Anyway, we have a total of 6 buildings shown here with the lot line and detention to the west, clubhouse, some facilities, parking garages. Again, this is, just like our previous case, there would be site plan review through multifamily if this project, the zoning and the project would move forward. So that level of detail we'd look at it. closer down the road. In looking at this and developing our staff report, this is I mean, it's not just a rezoning. There's also land use plan amendment. It's kind of a change. This area is, as you can see here, there's a lot of it that's not developed yet. So, we spent some time trying to think through this. A couple things that we looked at that we used the 2020 plan for guidance on was, connectivity, and then also transportation, road connections. The one thing I do want to point out before I go, there was an error in the staff report with regard to the nearest DART stop. There is one up here that'd be about a third of a mile away from the north edge of this development, half a mile from kind of the south edge of this development. In the staff report, we referenced it'd be 1 mile, which is the second to that. The next closest one is over in Altoona, a mile away. So, but also, we didn't just base our recommendation just on transit alone. We also looked, street network, multiple means of egress, how do you get in and out of the facility, and those sorts of things. And you can see right now, there really is not a road system in the area. I alluded to in the pictures that, that Aurora Avenue is in the developed and it's close to the site and is somewhat of a logical east-west divide between the north and kind of south boundary of this area that, and actually I have some conceptuals here that, there has been some plans developed for this area. Some of it's conceptual, some of it's actually approved. But this is the kind of that south perimeter corner. This was a concept. This developer, that when this concept was being looked at, they were looking at, if they were going to put the road in at this time, they wanted to be able to have houses on both sides. So that shows that 50th coming down and then swinging this down. But I think that we're not so set on how you see paths here. I think what's more important is you see these arrows and you see the connectivity and you see that there's an opportunity to have this area develop in a fashion that it makes sense.
Jason, just real quick on that drawing, could you?
Yes.
On that one, so Silverleaf PUD is that kind of middle parcel, that is approved. That roadway network is set. And then the one to the east was also approved as a PUD zoning. That's the one where the Planning Commission recommended previously that the commercial be moved from the corner of Douglas and 56th to actually move that up a little bit to the north. So that darker shaded area is actually low and medium density residential that's supposed to serve as a transition from the density in Brook Run and the existing single family houses that are on the south side of Douglas. And then the lighter colored area in that drawing is more medium density residential. And then the commercial is at that new, what would be the new proposed east-west street. And then obviously connections going north-south. When you go to the next photo, that's where the north-south and the east-west becomes really critical. If you could go to that.
This.
Yeah. Jason, could you point to that A1 area to the up
yeah,
there?
And that's exactly where I was.
Okay. That was previously right-of-way for the 65, 69 bypass. And there's very limited opportunity or no opportunity for access to that parcel from Broadway because of the existing platted lots up in this Broadway Business Park as well as the adjoining commercial facility. So really the only access to date that's available is to come up from the south into that area. So without a connection going to Aurora and other east-west connections, everything in this area will go south to Douglas. So it's very important that from a staff perspective that we're looking at this from a circulation standpoint, what opportunities do we have to get a roadway network developed up in this area? So, sorry, Jason, to point that, but.
Anyway, so I was just, so in looking at this, we wanted to, we're thinking about the whole area, not just the site, not just transit, but that's an important part. But also the connectivity, and showing you kind of how the area will work. This is just a graphic showing if there is the right-of-way here that I showed with that fence line, but if that was developed and extended on, how that would run south of their site. We also, in the pre-app, when the applicant came in, this is what was discussed at the pre-app, and this does show Aurora coming through. We understand that after the pre-app, that they had some discussions with some neighbors, and that led them to believe that, they didn't, led them to decide to submit the concept without Aurora coming through. So we're kind of basing our staff report and recommendation, based on what was submitted with the application versus this, but this was certainly something that, this has been talked about. I just wanted to show that.
Jason, I'm looking at the diagram you just had on there, and it shows northeast 50th Street. Is that currently in existence?
Yes.
Under your pictures. And then it shows the expansion of Aurora. One more down. Nope, one more down.
This one?
Nope, take them off. There you go.
This one?
Yep.
Yeah,
It says future Aurora Avenue.
This is 50th at the property front.
Does 50th run all the way through there at that point?
Stops right in here.
Okay, so where it says future Aurora Avenue and 50th, there's no access to that currently.
That's correct.
Okay.
This is just conceptual.
Okay.
So where I'm heading is that with what we have at this point, we're recommending denial without having, what we'd like to see is some way of getting partnership and getting Aurora dedicated. It's not the use in of itself. Multifamily in general is kind of a use that you would think of as being a transitional use between single family, industrial, commercial uses. So it's not so much the use, it's the lack of an existing street network to support the use that is of concern. I don't know, Mike, if you want to.
So with our recommendation, we did recommend denial on the basis of the submittal that was made. But based on our review of the new information about the transit stop that is at 50th Street to the northeast, we believe that if the commission is inclined to recommend approval of the rezoning, we would suggest that there be a condition on that Aurora be extended across and at least connect to 50th Street as part of this proposal.
Whose responsibility would that be?
At this point, the local streets are a developer responsibility. Part of the right-of-way would be, if you look at where on the PUD to the east or west of this, they did dedicate some additional right-of-way for Aurora Avenue. That sketch that was shown actually showed it swinging a little bit to the south. I think we'd prefer it follow, along the south edge of this. If we don't tie it to this rezoning, the reason it went to the south previously was that was already a platted industrial development. And, I think that now this is a request for a rezoning, it's time to look for those connections. I would hope that this developer could work with the adjoining property owner to the south to maybe do a cost share on construction of a street. And the developers even asked, is there a willingness for city participation? I checked with our economic development office, and they clearly indicated that they would need to see, what the financials were on the project, the valuation potential, things like that, understand the cost of the road. And then they'd be willing to at least have discussions, but there were no commitments made for city participation at this time.
Has staff spoken with the applicant with respect to these sorts of concerns?
We have this week, and
I guess what I'm trying to find out is, are we premature? Should we continue this and give staff an opportunity to meet with the applicants and the applicants an opportunity to meet with staff in order to get this kind of sorted through?
I think you could ask the applicant whether they were willing to do that.
Okay. Anything else, Jason?
No, that's it.
Any questions of Jason? Okay. Could the applicant please come forward? Mr. Niebuhr. I got it right, didn't I?
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Steve, let me ask
I've been
you.
helping, I've been helping.
He's over here diagramming stuff. Steve, before we get into this, are you wanting maybe a little bit more time to sit down with staff and work this through before you make the presentation, where the potential is that it's not going to go anywhere?
Can make a few comments
Go
about
ahead,
that.
all the comments you want.
I won't go through the whole project. I think we're down to one singular issue, which really, we did present two proposals at the pre-app meeting with the city staff, not knowing which way this really wanted to go. As we got through this, and that was talked about a lot with the fire department and with all the city departments, and access was talked about, and the number of units we could build with only having one point of access, and we've met all those conditions, okay? But we're really defined what we submitted to P&Z was input from the neighborhood. They will be madder than heck. I can't tell you how mad they'll be if we run this traffic through their neighborhood. It was the one singular issue that they brought forward at the neighborhood meeting, which we held about a week ago. And I think if you do it like is being talked about, you were running the potential of running truck traffic through their neighborhood. We've met with the school, with the principal, Kevin Walker. There is already a problem on Aurora with the buses, the children, and the parents lining up on Aurora to pick up their kids. And he was adamantly opposed to running any traffic onto Aurora. So to me, the defining issue is Aurora. If that's not something that you want to go with our plan and the neighbors, and you want to stick with the other plan, then it's probably a deal killer. I mean, it's just, I don't know that the neighbors are going to come out in force, quite honestly. That is their one issue that we've talked to Ward Councilman Mahaffey about it. He is in support of not running the traffic through on Aurora. I think the plan that Mike has shown with the property to the south making that connection with a roundabout to keep the trucks off of Aurora, that was the whole point, was that roundabout was to keep the trucks off of Aurora, push them up 50th, and make that connection on the southern property when it develops. If we do it now, we're going to run our truck traffic potentially right through that neighborhood, and I think you're going to have a lot of problems. So to me, that's the defining issue. Aurora, and do you make the connection now, or do you do it when you develop the property to the south?
The question really is traffic patterns, isn't it? It's not whether or not you're developing Aurora, it's the traffic patterns through this neighborhood area.
Aurora right now is a 20-foot wide agricultural section, unimproved. If you look at 50th, which we put in 2000 when the development was done, that's a 30-foot wide section, fully improved with fire hydrants. I mean, it's ready to go to handle the kind of traffic that's going to come off of a project. So if you run this traffic through that 20-foot wide section, it's not just me making the connection, it's all the way out you've got an issue.
Has the fire department weighed in on not building Aurora?
They are okay with what I've proposed and submitted to planning and zoning, provided we stay under 200 units. And we're at 186.
Dan?
Right.
If not Aurora, is there another solution or not? Where will this road go?
I think it connects like the master plan that Mike showed. When the southern part is developed and you do the roundabout, you don't run the truck traffic through, and you connect from the south single family area.
Could you show that on a map?
Yes.
Here we are, traffic and transportation now,
That
right?
was master planned when and?
2006. What
your development or somebody else?
That was done when this development was brought into the city of Des Moines. This was developed in Polk County in 2000. It was brought in the city of Des Moines in 2006, and that's when this master plan was done. I've got one that shows it not connecting at all. Obviously, there are a couple different scenarios that went around. This is the one that Mike had. This is Mike Ludwig, excuse me. So it's kind of hard to see.
Where's the site?
So right here's the site, okay? This shows a roundabout right here, connecting to our 50th Street, which heads north. It then connects on the southern property and connects up to Aurora, so the trucks can't maneuver around this roundabout and connect to Aurora through the single-family neighborhood. And all my traffic goes north out of that neighborhood. That was the master plan.
Yeah, I guess I'd like to clarify, there's nothing preventing a roundabout from being built now, and there's nothing preventing signage saying no truck traffic going onto Aurora. The point that staff was trying to make in this was that we're just delaying the inevitable of extending Aurora, in our opinion. If to sell a multifamily rezoning to the neighborhood, it's not to show Aurora being built. I just, from a staff perspective, want to be on the record that at some point Aurora needs to be extended through this area. So to say that it's not now is ultimately delaying the inevitable and, in our opinion, potentially misleading the residents that it'll never connect through.
But
We had
Mike,
that same
also,
problem. We had that same problem on 26
improve.
over there on Easton Boulevard to University with 26 being extended, and they knew it was going to happen, but
Has this been platted this way, or is this just a
No,
master plan?
That was a master plan
It-
for that area.
my parcel or the parcel to the south?
This parcel right here that we're looking at.
That's not been, this area has not been planted this way.
So this master plan and the neighbors, even though it's a master plan, would we say that this, if we were to follow this and connect up Aurora, does it make sense and the neighbors still could object? Maybe?
Yeah, you can do to them what you're talking about doing to me, which is making me do it. So, I mean, you have that power.
Also point out that Aurora is unimproved along there because when the PUD came through, at the time, the developer did not want to widen Aurora and back lots up to that. And we did get right-of-way dedicated at that time, but we did not require any improvements to Aurora at that time.
Well, I
You've
guess,
got that issue, though, going all the way north, too, out to Hubble. I mean,
Right.
beyond our,
right.
anything we've done.
I guess I'll reserve my comment till late, well, no, I won't. I'll say it anyway. I think we have to solve that second access, and I realize Fire and others might have agreed to it, but I'm stuck without some notion of how this connects up and works. This works for me, but how do we get there? And so I guess either we're not far enough along or, anyway, I'm stuck.
If it stays industrial, you're going to have the same issue.
I agree.
Except you're not going to have a $15 million investment. And now it's classified ag.
Go ahead, Steve.
That's really, I mean, to me, it's just down to the one defining issue. I won't go through the whole project. I think we're down to the one thing. And all I can say is I know the neighbors are very loud and clear. Councilman Mahaffey has been involved, and he has indicated he would prefer we not connect to the neighborhood. We've also talked to Skip Moore, and at the time we talked, he indicated that that also was probably best.
I guess my thought is when we're sitting here talking about this, we've got a lot of brain power, truthfully. I mean, you have a lot of that ability to bring some focus on this and get it done right. I would prefer to have it done right now as wait 10, 15, 20 years and have it done wrong. Now we've got a real problem. Now we've got the neighborhood backed up in there, and they're really not liking what's there. And I know it won't impact you, but it's going to impact us. It's going to impact those neighbors that are in that neighborhood, and it's going to impact all of these people. Hopefully we won't be here by then, but it's going to impact the people sitting on this commission that we didn't take care of that in advance of the onslaught that we know is going to come. That's my concern. I don't say you necessarily have to do it this way. I'm just saying we need to have some solution to the problem before we create a problem for ourselves. That's all I'm looking at. And maybe I'm all wet. I don't know.
Are we just, if we're commenting, I'd like to make a comment.
Yeah, I think we're kind of...
The property is zoned M1, correct?
Correct.
I don't want truck traffic I might be completely wrong in this, but it seems to me that we have these M1 zonings that come before us, or people want to develop apartments or something other than M1. And on the rare occasion when somebody wants an M1 use, it's where it's not an M1 zoning, it's because they have an M1 use next door and it's a small building and they want to expand it. It just seems to me that that's the recollection. So moving away from M1, I think is fine. I think what we're dealing with is, do we punt the ball and deal with it later, or do we deal with it now? The school doesn't want the traffic. Apparently, some of the neighbors anyway are saying they don't want the traffic. If we were to connect it, we're connecting it to a rural cross-section that's 20 feet wide. At some point, I guess that needs to be decided. There is right-of-way dedicated for this, correct? For a road, whether it's built now or 10 years down the road?
It's dedicated to basically the west edge of this development on this drawing, the far west edge.
Under Hubble's plan, are they showing a right-of-way, a possible right-of-way for Aurora to continue?
No.
So they're relying on this plan that was produced earlier that would shift Aurora down and do that roundabout and take care of the truck traffic that way.
And we were, this concept, when you look at it, that makes sense if there's industrial all to the north, because you wouldn't probably have, you could back up residential just like you do in the other subdivision to it. But if it's multifamily, I think we would prefer the road be shifted further north, run more continuous across, and maybe front some of that residential onto Aurora so that it relates better with the residential further to the south. Those were just concepts that were being discussed at the time. But, and I'm not trying to paint Hubble development into a corner on this. I'm just raising the issue that I've contacted Councilmember Moore earlier this week, talked with him a little bit about this. He was relying on what your input was tonight. I was not able to get a hold of Councilmember Mahaffey to talk with him and share some of these concerns. He was on the commission when a lot of this was looked at. And I just, from a professional advice standpoint to the commission, was concerned that we were just kind of kicking the can down the street on this and setting us up for an even bigger argument later over whether or not that road should be doing. It just seemed to me like it was leading the neighbors to think the road would never, ever go through there. And I don't think that makes sense from an overall circulation standpoint for the area. So,
Mike, I guess what I'm hearing you say is this roundabout, this road here that's the roundabout, that would be Aurora?
yes.
And what you're talking about is bumping it up to the north so that it actually fronts the properties to the north there.
Potentially. It may have to swing a little bit to the south, but the thought was it could front this multifamily development as well as single family on the other side of the street.
And this is conceptual, it's not platted.
The only thing that is approved is the Sterling, the Silverleaf PUD, which is the lower middle portion along Douglas. That's an approved PUD, as well as you would still have to see individual plans come in for the area to the east of Silverleaf. Okay, you would still have to see individual plans come in for those larger parcels. That was the condition of the approval. But Silverleaf is approved in its current configuration. And obviously that would force some change to this design to the west.
Well, I'm looking, Jason, what you just put up, I'm looking at that, it has a cul-de-sac, so we're not actually connecting those streets up there, right?
Well, this is taped on.
Yeah, that was the approved one. So there would have to be a revision to bring us east-west street north of that would tie in. So this conceptual drawing was basically a pre-application drawing that came to us. It has not been to the P&Z and it has not been approved. So that area can change to tie in.
Mike, is Aurora, does the city have control of the full width of Aurora that would be needed for an improvement of the street in the future?
We do to between 46th and I think it's 49th. And then there's, actually we have it all the way to the west edge of this, I believe, because Hubble did dedicate right away on the north side of the roadway in their
That's what I was
Summersfield
wondering
PUD.
if that was my,
Yeah.
you do have enough width there then now?
Yes.
I might be the lone person here, but I guess I don't have an issue punting the ball. The school doesn't want the traffic, the neighborhood apparently doesn't want it. There's still the opportunity to do an east-west road on the property to the south later, and 50th is fully improved, so I guess I don't have an issue.
So we lie to the citizens and say there's not going to be one coming through there, and then later on we do it.
We didn't
But I
tell
think
them
it looks a
that.
lot, Mr. Chairman, I don't mean to interrupt, but I think it looks a lot different if you're not routing the trucks. If we do what we're talking about, we run the potential of routing trucks through there. They're gonna blow a gasket. And we've seen that. I mean, we had that happen to us down on McKinley, and that everybody crumbled. And we were right, and I don't know if the political will's there to take it on.
Greg?
I think we're stuck, and even though I said that I really didn't like not answering, I'm kind of heading toward Mike's theory, and we're not really punting. This is an area where development has not happened yet. There's a lot of, it could be a lot of different things in the meantime. I think it is a lot different when it's industrial or when it's multifamily. And I think there's going to be a big desire to have, if there's a school back down Aurora and we have a multifamily and those kids go there, there's going to be a lot of demand at some point for it to go that way. But if it doesn't go there yet, and without tying this up, it's not the Hubble's to develop, it's somebody else's. If it goes this way, the neighborhood is going to have just as much of a fit as they will right now, probably, unless something's done with Aurora. So it'll have to happen. So I guess what I think is that as long as we have some thought to fix Aurora up, we probably should just let it go. Let it go. But
Steve, did you have anything else?
No, I'm done. Thank you.
Is there anyone here to speak in favor of the application? Please come forward. Seeing none, is there anyone here to speak in opposition to the application? Please come forward. Give us your name and address.
My name's Adam Austin, 4633 East Valdez Drive. You pretty much have hit the nail on the head. Driving Aurora, the streets through Aurora, my backyard backs right up to that street. We have an 18-foot setback or offset because of water issue. If I put a fence up, I only have use of 12 feet of my back fence. I have 2 small children. If I'm in the house washing dishes, making dinner, I can send them to the backyard now and know they're going to be safe. Adding potentially 300 cars a day, going back and forth to school, probably more, it's a real safety issue on my end. Adding all that extra traffic adds congestion to the school. It's already hard enough to get off of Northeast 46th to Hubble. We've asked for a stoplight, and we've been told it's not in the works. The school doesn't have capacity for this apartment complex and all the children it's going to bring in. They don't. Some of us that have kids in this land development can't send our kids to a school that's a block away. It's an issue for us. I don't mind if the apartment building's there. My issue is with Aurora. It's not developed. There's no sidewalks there. It's unsafe. Right now, you have people driving on it way too fast for the condition it's in. It's just going to go downhill from here if it doesn't get fixed the first time.
Anything else? I'm going to ask you to look at this diagram. It's right to your, it'd be to your left. See the roundabout in there? Is that going to help or assist in the concern that you have? If
In
you
what
know.
manner?
Slowing traffic, doing away with some traffic?
No.
Okay.
This is going to be the primary path that all this apartment takes to the school. It's a lot of people are going to try to avoid going onto Hubble this way because it's going to be a lot less traffic coming this way. I think it's actually going to funnel more traffic to Aurora and back behind there, which in turn increases our safety risk. As far as large trucks, yeah, I think it avoids large trucks, but once the construction's done, they're gone.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you, Adam. Is there anyone else here to speak in opposition? Seeing none. Steve, do you need any time?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay. I'm going to close the public
I'd
hearing.
like to make a motion and just see where it goes.
Okay.
I'd like to move that we approve the rezoning, subject to staff working with Hubble to determine if there's any additional right-of-way, for example, for a roundabout or something at some future intersection that could be considered to help slow traffic.
Ted? Tim?
I can support that, Mike.
I've heard this, and I just want to, some clarity. Were these people told that this road would not go through? Is that what I heard? Or
And which road, Aurora or Fifth?
Aurora.
Aurora?
Staff has never said Aurora will never go.
I don't think that
Yeah,
anybody.
even right on a card,
Yeah.
that they wouldn't, so,
Maybe the applicant speak if that was stated at the meeting, but staff has never said that Aurora would not connect.
They wouldn't have given a right-of-way if they were never going to.
I can say we've never represented that it wouldn't go.
And I don't
through.
think I don't think that's ever been represented to them. I think that's what they'd like to have. Anybody else? I have a real concern about this. I mean, it makes me absolutely crazy because I'm just concerned that we're going to put a Band-Aid on something that's a huge wound, and it's going to not get better. I mean, I'd much rather deal with the heartburn that we're going to have to deal with right now with the neighborhood coming in there and getting all ugly with us, as opposed to waiting until we got 200 more people in there and they really are going to get ugly with us. I don't have a solution, but then again, I'm not a planner. I'm a lawyer, so that's not what I do. And I just think that there's a way to resolve the situation and have the least impact as possible. We have a lot of land right now that we can deal with that's not already developed, and I think there's got to be a solution. But maybe I'm just.
Dan, if I could comment to that, just
Go ahead, Mike.
as a planner and architect, I don't think the issue is necessarily this amount of Aurora. It's existing Aurora that won't support traffic, and they don't have sidewalks. It's a 20-foot wide piece of pavement. You'd never do that today. And I think that's the bigger issue. So that at some time, when Aurora goes through, that's going to have to be addressed too.
And that's why I'm saying we're just putting it off.
yeah.
Ted.
If I heard the applicant, it sounds to me like if we're going to tackle all of Aurora on the back of this project, whether they pay for it or not, they don't think there's a political will at council and certainly in the neighborhood to support it. So I think if we decide that we need to deal with Aurora with with this project, there isn't going to be a project to deal with Aurora. So,
And my goal was to maintain flexibility.
yeah, and I don't think that's kicking the can.
I think we have an opportunity to have flexibility right now, but we're
Well,
not doing that with the plan that we've got in front of us.
It seems to me that Mike's potential motion here is doing that, and I think we can design the whole thing for the future so that we don't have any issues right now, but then this won't happen. So neither will the redesign of Aurora.
Greg?
Dan, I guess, I do planning, just like Mike does, and you get a lot of developers and one doesn't agree, but you're trying to do this roadway stuff. I guess, in my view, I think in this discussion, we have this, what's before us, it's kind of a master plan, but it's a way out of the Aurora solution. It shows a cul-de-sac coming down and something connecting up to Aurora. To me, that solves the problem. When it happens, we don't know right now, but I think that it does solve the Aurora issue, ignoring the 20-foot underdeveloped section that would have to be upgraded at some point, just like Indianola is finally right now after all that development on the southeast side. That was underdone, and we finally got around to it. I agree with you, Dan, that we might want to do it sooner rather than later, but I don't think it's, the Hubbles probably can't solve it on their own. So I like Mike's motion, and I support going forward.
Like I said, I just can't support it. I don't want to leave a big pit out here that somebody's going to step in that they have no way of knowing about. So, anyway, is there any other discussion? Seeing none, everybody understand Mike's motion?
Say it again. To support Hubble's rezoning, subject to staff working with Hubble to make certain assurances, and this might have to do more with site planning than zoning, but flexibility to add a future road, including a possible future roundabout at the intersection.
Everybody understand the motion? Jack?
And I'm not picking a fight here, so that if we go back to the staff recommendation, Mike, that picks up Part A, and then reverses staff, if you will, on B and C, and adds a condition.
That's correct.
Okay. So we want to split that out, Jack? We'll take up A first. So A would be that it be found not in conformance with the 2020 Community Character Plan. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Acclamation, Kevin. And then we'll take out, you want to split out B and C, Jack, or you want to?
No, I think B and C are put together in the staff recommendation. And
okay.
I think that's what Mike is saying, and then he's adding a condition to either B or C. I don't know which one it is.
Okay. So then we take up Mike's motion that he just presented for everybody. Does everybody understand the motion? All those in favor of Mike's motion, please signify by raising your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You got that, Kathy? Opposed, same sign. 1, 2, 3, 3, 4.
7-4?
It's Tim.
Oh, CJ's gone.
I think they need to build the road in person.
Vicky, got it? Okay. All right. It passes. Mike, Director's report.
We have no items to report.
Okay. I want direct everybody's attention to the calendar. Are we still on for the 19th, Mike? As far as we know?
The 19th.
Of October, city manager?
As far as I know, yes.
Okay, so I want to direct everybody's attention to the 19th, the city manager, meeting with city manager. Some of you I know haven't been to that yet, and so.
We'll confirm it on the 18th.
And we'll confirm that, yeah, we'll confirm that on the 18th, all right? Any further discussion? Greg, you have anything? Okay. That being said, we're adjourned.
Here we are again. Haven't seen you around in a while. Where have you been? New look, you found your style. Make you realize if you open your eyes, you can change your view. Walk the city block in these shoes. Gray sky turn blue. Change your view. Well, I can change your view. And I walk the city block in these shoes. I something old for something new. Change your view.